They were both women in their mid-30s, white, suburban, and following paths different from their earlier selves. Both women navigating the complicated terrain of American womanhood in the 21st century, with all of the complexities that now brings in this time of social upheaval, digital transformation, and unprecedented change. Both arrived at moments of profound political conviction, believing deeply enough in their cause to show up, to be present, and ultimately to have their bodies added to the movement they thought mattered. Both died in that conviction, their final moments captured by the unblinking eye of modern technology, preserved forever as symbols of something far larger than their individual lives. Daughters, in effect, of two very different revolutions. The similarities end there. The paths that brought them to those final moments couldn't have been more different. And make no mistake, I'm drawing no equivalency to the righteousness of their causes. Rather, I'm struck that two women so demographically similar could be drawn to such different worlds, such different actions, and such starkly contrasting reactions to their deaths. This essay is an observation of how the contortions of a fracturing nation are still struggling to answer the basic questions about its true origin story. Ashley Babbitt spent months preparing for January 6th. An Air Force veteran and small business owner from San Diego, California, she had descended deep into the QAnon conspiracy universe. Her social media filled with increasingly radical content about stolen elections and coming storms. She didn't stumble into the Capitol. She traveled there, 3,000 miles with purpose and planning, knowing exactly what she was going to do. She wrapped herself in a Trump flag and joined a mob intent on stopping the certification of a Democratic election. Her last moments, leading a violent mob with shouts from them of "break it down," weren't spontaneous. Video taken of her last moments are conclusive and undisputed. She broke through the final doors in the Capitol before reaching lawmakers and directly into pointed guns telling her they were going to shoot if she continued her violent breach. Hers was the culmination of months of radicalization, the endpoint of a deliberate journey into extremism. Renee Good woke up on a Tuesday morning in suburban Minneapolis expecting an ordinary day. She wasn't an activist. She hadn't been radicalized by conspiracy theories or planned some dramatic confrontation with authority. She was a mother with young children navigating the mundane rhythms of American suburban life. She just dropped off her 6-year-old at school. Then ICE agents swarmed her neighborhood, and whatever happened next, whether she blocked the street in protest, whether she simply witnessed, whether she questioned what was unfolding on her own street, are secondary in importance to one fact. It was spontaneous, immediate, human. There was no 3,000-mile journey, no months of preparation, no premeditation, no manifesto on social media, just a woman confronted before morning coffee with something happening in her community and responding to the moment. One woman spent months planning to break democracy. The other spent a morning responding to democracy breaking down around her. Yet today, Ashley Babbitt is a martyr to the MAGA movement, venerated by the president himself. And Renee Good is a terrorist, declared as such before the investigation began, before her family could even comprehend their loss. The lionization of one and the demonization of the other reveals everything about the story MAGA tells itself about who belongs in America. For them, Ashley Babbitt represents virtue and the example of how MAGA views legitimate resistance. Months of commitment, cross-country travel, violent breach of police barriers all confirm her heroism. Willing to be seditious, treasonous, and overthrow a fair election for the cause. Revolution requires planning, dedication, and people willing to die for the cause. She did it, all of it, deliberately. So she's a hero. Hell, we'll even cut her family a multi-million-dollar check for it. Renee Good represents the opposite to them. Illegitimate resistance. But here's what makes her truly threatening. The spontaneous nature of her presence, an ordinary suburban mother responding to extraordinary circumstances in her own neighborhood, suggests the threat is everywhere, not confined to organized activists or radical protesters. The only thing they haven't hurled at her is that she was a paid George Soros protester. The growing rage is in every neighborhood, every suburban street, every person who might wake up one morning and find themselves confronted with something that they can't ignore. It is growing, and it will get bigger. It will get bigger after this, and they know it. So she must be made into a terrorist. Because the alternative is admitting that their government is doing things so extreme that ordinary people, mothers on their own streets, feel compelled to respond. I wrote just hours after her murder that the administration would run her name through the mud and destroy her character. Better to demonize her quickly before the truth of her ordinariness can take hold, before anyone starts asking why a woman who wasn't an activist ended up dead in her own neighborhood. And this is how fractured America works now. We don't just disagree about facts, we disagree about fundamental categories. Are months of radicalization followed by violent insurrection, revolution, or terrorism? Is spontaneous response to government overreach in your own neighborhood citizenship or extremism? Well, the answer depends entirely on which America you inhabit in your mind, which revolution you believe in, which daughter you claim as your own. The Trump administration is teaching its followers a clear lesson. Premeditated violence in our name equals patriotism. Spontaneous opposition to our actions equals terrorism. Planning to attack democracy makes you a hero. Responding instinctively to government overreach in your own community makes you an enemy of the state. Now, I'm convinced both women believe themselves to be acting as patriots. But only Ashley Babbitt had months to consider her actions, to plan her journey, to understand and breathe in what she was about to do. She walked towards confrontation, traveled across the country to engage it, to be clear. Renee Good had a morning, maybe minutes. The spontaneous nature of her death, the ordinariness of her circumstances makes it more profound, not less. She didn't travel across the country looking for revolution. She had stuffed animals in her glove compartment and crushed goldfish crackers in the passenger seat. These are hardly the tools of a terrorist. Masked aggression walked into her street where her children play. Violence came to her neighborhood, and she responded the way millions of American moms might respond when confronted with something that they believe is wrong. And that's precisely what makes her persona so dangerous to this administration. Ashley Babbitt's heroism requires commitment to a delusional dystopian movement most people won't make. But Renee Good's terrorism only requires being present in your own neighborhood and responding to what you see. And if that's terrorism, then anyone, anywhere, at any moment might become a terrorist simply by witnessing and reacting. We are watching the manifestation of the belief and commitment to two distinct American origin stories, two incompatible revolutions that cannot coexist. Ashley Babbitt's revolution is about blind loyalty, deliberate action in service of power for its own sake, fealty to a leader that gives them a sense of meaning they do not have, community when they need to hold on to something, and with that, plan violence to maintain control. Renee Good's revolution, the one that got labeled her a terrorist, is about spontaneous response to injustice. The human instinct to react when something wrong happens on your own street, to protect your neighbor, citizen or not, when they're hunted. About being good when the world around you is doing bad. One of these is actually American. The other just controls the government. These daughters of different revolutions died in completely distinct circumstances. One traveled 3,000 miles. With months of preparation to attack democracy, the other woke up in her own neighborhood and responded to what she saw. The president has the power to define which daughter becomes a saint and which becomes a terrorist for his social movement, and that he's chosen to honor premeditated insurrection and criminalize spontaneous dissent tells you everything you know about which revolution he's fighting for and which America he intends to build and which he intends to destroy.